when you need to put a big hole in something, you want a self-feed bit like this. This is 1 1/4 inches wide. It's by DeWalt. It's model DW1632. And thanks to the Home Depot Seeds program, we have access to it. The shank on this is 7/16, which means it'll fit a 1/2 inch drill driver. Opening up, they give you not instructions for the bit, but instructions on how to sharpen the bit, because, and there's also a tip and an Allen key. Let me show you. Boy, they really don't want you to get into it. So, nice wide, sharp edge. It's all exposed so that you can resharpen this when it dulls out. Here's where the Allen key goes, so you can replace this tip when it wears out. That's really nice. It's hardened metal, and the nice thing is this shank is all one piece, so it should reduce the likelihood of snapping this during use. And like I said, this will fit a 1/2 inch drill driver. So we're going to put this to the test and see how it does. And unlike most people who would use this bit to drill through a board, we actually want to drill into this trunk because my wife wants to make a planter out of this. So I think if I bore a couple of holes in here, I could chisel out the rest. So let's give it a try and see if it works. What I'm noticing is it pretty much drives itself in. I'm not pushing down on the drill to get it to go in. So far, I've managed to go in about that far, which is nice because I've had other bits like this where the shank is much shorter. So this is nice because you can go in a few inches. Not bad. Let's drill a hole next to it. You may notice that there's some oscillation going on, and I attribute that to the fact that this bit only has one cutting edge, whereas some other competing brands have 2 cutting blades. So I'm all the way to the end of the bit. Just going to reverse out. Clean out the hole. And I think the biggest limitation I'm seeing is that this drill driver is not as powerful as I really need. I'd probably be better with a plugged in one. but the bit's doing the job. It's giving me about 4 inches. So we've made 2 holes, and this wood is kind of damp because it's been out all winter. So let's drill another hole and see how the sharpness of the blade is holding up. Nicely done. Now you're thinking, gee, wouldn't it be nice if they made a bigger bit so that you wouldn't have to drill so many holes? And actually, they do. It's the gigantic 4 5/8 DW1642, and like the smaller one, 7/16 shank, so it'll fit the same driver. Let's get this thing out of this big box. See the size? See what we can do with this. Like its smaller brother, it includes a spare tip and an Allen key, so you could swap out the tip should you need to. But look at the size of this mother compared to that. I'm going to put a new battery on the drill and give it a go. Dropped in a fresh battery, and we're going to give this a go and see how it does. Maybe we should do it in the correct direction, which is clockwise. What you just witnessed there was the drill driver kicking back as this came down and started to cut. There was just too much force, and so this twisted around. Great way to break your wrist. So I think we're going to try a tool that has an auxiliary handle on it that can counteract that force. In the meantime, I'm just going to reverse this out. But you know, just because I'm stupid, I'm going to try it again, but a lot slower. Nope, can't do it with this, unless you want to try to break your wrist. So why is it that we almost broke our wrist with this larger bit, but yet didn't experience this problem with the smaller one? Well, let's look at what happens with the smaller bit. As the spur pulls the cutting blade towards the material, when it actually makes contact with that wood, a lot of resistance that's generated. And that's transferred up the shaft, into the tool, into your hand as a counterclockwise force. Now normally, you can overcome that force just by the grip on your tool. That leaves the motor to overcome the resistance of the blade into the material, and if it's strong enough, then the bit starts spinning and you have a hole. If the motor isn't able to overcome that resistance from the bit, then it binds and everything stops. Now with our larger 4 5/8 bit with 2 blades on it, when those blades contacted the material, it generated so much force that I couldn't hold the driver. It actually, what's called, kicked back and broke loose for me. Fortunately, I didn't get hurt, but the forces generated are very sudden and very great and can lead to broken wrists or arm. And a kickback can happen even when you're using a smaller bit, especially if it hits an obstruction. And as you see, speed made very little difference in the kickback. It happened at high speed and at low speed. Ways to mitigate kickback: use the appropriate size bit on the tool. If your tool has an aux handle, make use of it. Buy drivers that have anti-kickback protection, and practice safe holding of the tool. For example, with this drill driver, use your left hand to grab the grip, then use the right hand to hold the base battery pack of the unit. This way, should you experience a kickback situation, that counterclockwise force will go into your hand, giving you some control. Whereas if you had held the unit with your right hand and put your left hand over the base battery pack, the counterclockwise force would actually pull the tool away from your left hand. When working with a driver that has an aux handle, if you have the aux handle on the left-hand side, then use your left hand underhand grip to hold it. That way, in a kickback, the handle actually goes into your palm where you're able to control the kickback. If you hold it overhand, then the handle will tend to break free during a kickback situation. If the aux handle is on the right-hand side of the tool, then you want to hold it with an overhand grip. Should it kick back, it'll go into your palm and not break away from your palm as it would if you were holding it from underneath. We've upgraded our drill driver to an electric one with an aux handle, but we quickly found out that this drill is just not big enough and the kick is way too much for hand holding. You'd actually either need to go into a softer material like drywall or have your drill bolted down or framed in somehow so that it doesn't move and you're not the person holding it, because it's just too much force is being generated by that blade trying to catch into the wood that it kicks right back, and this can't overcome it without it being locked down. At 4 5/8, too much bit for this tool, therefore not advisable to be used. So when using a drill driver, you need to know your limits on how big of a bit you can use. And this is way too large, where this tends to be much easier to work with and safer. Here's the wear and tear on the bit from going into that stump. There's obviously on the leading edge, there's some roughness now. And of course the paint's gone. Same thing on the tips of the side. The spur looks brand new. The shank didn't bend, crack, or break. So pretty impressive for the 1 1.25 inch. I definitely would highly recommend this if you need to bore. I think that was a pretty good challenge, and it's really nice that you can sharpen it and make this tool last a long time. At 4 5/8 inches, this DeWalt bit is just too much, even for this 5 amp electric drill driver. I can't recommend this for the consumer who just wants to use their drill driver, unless you're going through something really, really soft. But this is designed for going into wood, and it couldn't do that trunk because we're using the wrong tool, obviously. It's just interesting that the shank will fit a 1/2 inch drill driver, but none of these are capable of giving it enough torque to overcome the resistance of this blade once it hits the material. I do like the fact that it has a replaceable spur, and they include an extra one. The shank is part of, it's a one-piece tool, which means that this is less likely to crack, bend, or break on you. And as we demonstrated with the smaller version of this, it can do a really good job, and it will fit most drill drivers. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.